news of the week with your anchorman, Dennis Miller.
Happy Valentine's Day, America! Yeah. Saw my little bum, didn't you? All right, presidential hopeful Paul Tsongas began drinking milk by the gallon as soon as he heard the news that he had surpassed former frontrunner Bill Clinton in the New Hampshire polls. Explained the affable Tsongas, if I become the leader of the free world, I will need strong bones and teeth. Hey. Thank you. At least we didn't go for the cheap jug joke. Jerry Brown signed copies of Thomas Paine's Common Sense because, as Jerry said, common sense dictates that if I signed copies of my own book, I wouldn't be here long. Tom Harkin made New Hampshire voters guess which hand the health policy was in. Later, Harkin demonstrated Bush's economic plan to some school children by hanging food just out of their reach. By the way, I have decided that in an attempt to foreshadow Bill Clinton's political future, we will wipe him completely out of the news. Bob Kerrey visited with New York City Mayor David Dinkins. Reporters eavesdropping on the pair heard Kerry say, "No, I haven't heard any good jokes lately, and don't ask me again." Dan Quayle has been sent on a super-secret mission to the Baltics and probably won't be back until George has been safely reelected. President Bush delighted young Edwin Gonzalez this week with an impromptu puppet show. But the toddler's reaction paled in comparison to that of Vice President and wife Marilyn, who squealed and clapped with delight at the funny little lamb. Yeah. There's Bill Clinton. Yeah, I like him out to about here. Despite the tough times, the president still maintains a sense of humor. Here, Bush prepares to ambush Treasury Secretary Nicholas Brady with one of his fabled state dinner surprises. And as he was leaving San Diego on Air Force One, he turned and happily tossed the First Lady high into the air. Speaking in Cleveland this week, Bush inexplicably began to talk passionately about the meatball hoagie he had for lunch. I'm telling you, this thing was this huge. White House Budget Director Richard Darman covers his face in shame when he realizes he forgot to carry over the trillion. Love, look at the two of us, strangers in many ways. Senator Barry Goldwater posed with his new wife, Susan, this week. She will keep her own name and henceforth be called Mrs. Goldwater-Gold Digger. Scandalous news about Secretary of State James Baker's trip to Russia has surfaced this week. Here, Baker can be seen just seconds after lobbing tiny chunks of cheese at the hungry citizens outside his hotel. And this week, Baker stunned the Israeli Likud party by offering them Hartford, Connecticut in exchange for the West Bank. Then on Tuesday, the Secretary of State happily accepted his new position as permanent guest host of hell as Beelzebub looked on. Francois Mitterrand and Boris Yeltsin were embarrassed this week when they realized they had bought each other the exact same gift for the first state meeting. And Imelda Marcos, running for president of the Philippines, spent the day greeting supporters and stealing all their jewelry and watches. Princess Di and Hervé Villachez unveiled their new act at the National Cabaret Owners Convention in Las Vegas, billed as Blondie and Short Stuff. The two hope to recapture some of the charm and wit of the immortal Willie Tyler and Lester. Ronald Reagan celebrated his 81st birthday with a surprise party. He was also surprised when he found out he used to be president of the United States. Ex-Panamanian strongman Manuel Noriega posed nude for photographers outside a Miami courtroom yesterday. Always use a sunscreen, kids. 559-pound sumo wrestler Konishiki wed his petite bride this week. Konishiki wore the traditional black kimono, striped pants, and hostess snowball cupcake cummerbund. Added an embarrassing gaffe at the Olympics this week. They ran out of gold medals. Speed skater Gunda Neiman was distraught after being offered, quote, anything off the top shelf. And finally, a tragedy was avoided when a woman fell from the stands but was caught by figure skater Rocky Marble. Guess what, folks? That's the news, and I
live on tape, it's the Dennis Miller Show. Tonight, Louis Gossett Jr., the Pixies, Michael Kinsley, Vincent Bugliosi, Andy Summers and the Soporifics. This portion of the Dennis Miller Show is brought to you by Budweiser. This Bud's for you.
Back. Hey, thank you. Welcome back. Welcome back. We got a good show. We got a great show for you tonight. Louis Gossett Jr., Vincent Bugliosi, Michael Kinsley, and Pixies. Today is the Pixies, man. Today is Happy Valentine's Day. I want to wish everybody a Happy Valentine's Day. The day we buy cards for the people we'd like to keep on tap in case our important relationships crumble. It is the topic of tonight's Case 4, Case Against. Case 4, Valentine's Day. It's named after a saint. The Case Against, you know how much action they got. The Case 4, you get to tell that special someone you love them. Against, they get to tell you they don't. Case 4, your husband brings you flowers. Against, it's Jennifer Flowers. The Case 4, the little candy hearts with funny sayings. Against, yours all say, die in your sleep. The Case 4, a big box of chocolates. Against, a stress boil you can ski on. The Case 4, your mother decides to pay you a Valentine's Day visit. The Case Against, you're still wearing the saddle when she arrives. Get them up, move them out, rawhide. The Case 4, special Valentines are kept forever. The Case Against, co-workers find them and read them aloud in mocking voices. Case 4, a Valentine lets you express your true feelings to a co-worker. Against, upon receiving it, she quits and files sexual harassment charges that sink your career. And finally, the Case 4, Valentine's Day, you and your wife rent an X-rated video to get in the mood. The Case Against, you're in it! When that happens. My first guest tonight won an Emmy for his portrayal of Fiddler in Roots and won an Oscar for his role in Officer and a Gentleman. Please welcome Louis Gossett Jr., folks. in trouble with your other friend.
That's all right. I do both shows now.
All right.
I do all the shows.
Hey, I just read your bio earlier today. I was reading all your stuff backstage, and I thought, my God, I'm not doing enough with my life. You,
Well, I've been around a little bit longer than you have.
yeah, you have done it all, though. You've won every award I can think of.
Yeah.
You've all these activities outside the business, which are much more important, I would think. But the thing that touched me the most, and I'm not sure how you pronounce your adopted child's name. Is
Sharon.
it Sharon?
Yeah.
I read a quote and a story about him. You have he was 14 at the time.
He's 14 now.
14 now.
He was 6 and a half, going on 7 at the time.
Yeah, and you saw him on a...
Yeah.
Why don't you tell the people?
Well, I tell that story a little bit, but in reality's sake, I don't talk about that thing because I didn't do it for publicity. I did it to include him in my family and my life, so that I'll just do a little capsule. He's my adopted. He's legal. He's my blood son right now,
yes.
And my other son is 17. So that's
but I was. More than the actual art of doing it, which is obviously a heartfelt, personal thing. I was touched by a quote in an article I read about your adopting him. I thought it was very telling, where you said your son now assumes that he deserves certain things.
Oh, yeah.
And I find that so touching, because so many of these kids who are disenfranchised.
Well, he teaches me a lesson about certain things, about the psyche of a child or someone who is deprived.
Yes.
They only think in terms. You ask a kid like that in a neighborhood, what do you want to be? And they might say bus driver.
Right.
Maybe somebody who works for the post office. You ask a kid in another neighborhood, and they'll say president. So there's a dream vista that's limiting. So you got to get that shadow off, and get them to dream as far as they can think.
Yeah. Well, must be. Now you lost a dear friend in the last week, I guess.
Yeah,
Alex Haley,
boy.
who authored
Now,
Roots.
see, there are very few people and we can think about those particular people who are put on this planet to have the childhood experience and grow up with a bunch of ancestors and relatives, to have a curiosity to want to trace all the way back to where they came from, like an Alex Haley. He's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of person. He has made an indelible impression on my life by putting me in the part of fiddler. And he is one of those unselfish people. He will come and show up for you anytime, anywhere. So he forces himself to get on a tramp steamer in order to write, so he can't go anywhere. Comes back with reams of literature, but as soon as he gets off, he's gone. He's the one of the most brilliant, unselfish, great human beings I've ever met in my life.
The fiddler character is somewhat akin to another character who you've expressed some interest in playing, Step and Fetch It.
Well, I was a little upset when they were casting Roots because of all these parts, Kunta Kinte and all O.J. Simpson. They hadn't called me yet. As soon as they called me, they want me to play the Uncle Tom. I said, well, that's what you guys think about me. And they said, so I said, okay, if you want me to play the Uncle Tom, I'm going to give you an Uncle Tom that you will never forget. Right?
And you won the Emmy.
Yeah. So I got into it pretty deeply, and turned out that there's something to be understood. The man survived. He taught Kunta Kinte to survive. If he had not taught Kunta Kinte to survive, and Kunta Kinte had died, there would be no Alex Haley. So I started thinking further about Step and Fetch It, who we know in film, and all that kind of stuff. But when he stopped that part and went home, he got in a Duesenberg, or a Cadillac, or a Rolls Royce. He had 7 cars. And he owned some 50 blocks, South Adams and Crenshaw. And he had a lot of houses and stuff. So the guy that you saw on film was not the guy that went home. And he died kind of tragically, and his son went crazy with the image that was given to Step and Fetch It. But it made me curious about doing a story about this three-dimensional man, to explain how somebody like that comes to be. He had a direct phone from the studio to his home, along with Charlie Chaplin and the rest of the guys.
But was he somewhat estranged from his own community by the part he played?
Not really estranged from that community. He was estranged from the younger community who had a new consciousness.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll be right back with Louis Gossett Jr. right after. with Louis Gossett Jr. Now, you appeared in a film where you met somebody else who's always kind of fascinated me, Satchel Paige.
Oh,
and
right,
did you ever read Satch's 10 rules of
avoid
the social ramble?
Right,
disconcerting to the stomach.
But don't look back. Something might be gaining on you.
Right, right. How was Satchel?
He was something.
When you met him?
And by the time, Satchel was in his 80s when I met him. And he was still had part of ownership of the Kansas City Monarchs. But he was a little bitter because he should have had more money, you know. So somebody would come up like with the New York Times and they say, we would like to do a feature story on you. He said, it would cost you $500.
Yeah. Well, those guys just got raped, man.
Oh, yeah.
Cool Papa Bell and those
yeah, all of those guys. They should have been in the pros. They really should have been in the pros. Plus, they had that game when they played the All-Stars.
Wait a second, but they were being invaded by Roy Thinnes.
Yeah.
We okay, guys?
That's an amp.
See? Those propane-powered amps. They're hell. We're going to go to the electric stuff next week, but, you know, we got budget problems. Now, what's the new film is Diggstown, and you lost 40 pounds for it?
Yeah.
Pulling a De Niro thing?
I pulled a De Niro thing by gaining weight in The Punisher with Dolph Lundgren. I played an over-the-hill cop, and it was a pleasure to gain that weight. A pleasure.
How'd you go about doing it? What was your favorite? What was your...
I was in Sydney, Australia. And there must be 47 different kinds of varieties of seafood. They have a thing called a mud crab. Mud crabs are delicious. You eat it all. And I had mud crab every day, and I had mashed potatoes, the French fried potatoes, I had the steaks, I had everything. I went up to 242.
For your art. For your art.
Yeah. Then came home. This was about 3 years ago. And I figured I'd do a De Niro, you know, eat the brown rice and run a lot. And I kept getting bigger. I've got muscles now on top of the fat.
There's no turning back.
And then finally, I got desperate and I said, okay, forget it. And I got this suit when I was that size. And then I got the job doing the Diggstown Ringers. And I got they assigned Louis de Freitas, the Brazilian doctor chiropractor, the man who was Mr. Universe right after Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Benny Urquitas, the kickboxing champion. And I had 6 hours a day, 6 days a week for 8 weeks with a diet. So I went from 242 to 205, y'all.
Yeah. You're looking very Linda Hamilton now, babe.
Yeah.
You got that Terminator ripped to you.
Yeah.
But you have the athletic background, so it must not have been that hard for you to get it off.
It was hard.
Yeah, really?
It was hard. You can take maybe 10, maybe 12 pounds off with hard work, and then the body stops. You don't take it off. Maybe you take a little micro ounce at a time, and all of a sudden it starts again, and then it stops. And so you have levels, and you get kind of evil after a while. And finally you get there.
Now, you were a hoop player way back when in New York City, and you had a tryout for the Knicks?
Yeah, they kind of drafted the rookies. It was a rookie camp. And I went up there.
How did they do it then? By territory, the NBA?
By territory, but New York got New York.
Yeah, that's so weird to me that they used to do it like... That's why they were great.
Yeah, they were fabulous. And Happy Hairston was there, and Sat Sanders. Sat Sanders went to the Celtics eventually, and Happy went to the Lakers. And
when Happy came to the Lakers, that's when they went on that 33-game streak. Because he got that board work they needed.
Yeah.
But who were you playing against back then?
I was playing against Connie Hawkins.
Yeah, the Hawk.
Skull Barnett. People like that.
Is that what Dick Barnett's nickname was?
Skull, yeah.
Yeah, that weird little thing from the corner.
Skull. And I was doing pretty good. Yeah, I was doing pretty good. And then all of a sudden, the rookies, and they got this hunger in their eyes because that's all they know.
Right.
If they don't make it in basketball, then they got to be a bus driver.
Right.
You know, or maybe an assistant coach. So I was doing pretty good.
God forbid.
I was doing pretty good until I got a couple of elbows in the side of the head and a couple of knees in the back. And I'm sitting there, touching about the pain, and I said, you know what? I already have a job about to start on Broadway with Sidney Poitier called A Raisin in the Sun.
Right.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah, well, lucky for us, huh? We were talking in the break, though, man. There's something, what can be more riveting than an athlete in all his glory, though? And magic at the All-Star game. It was just incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What do you feel about Irving, man? What is that? Oh, they gave you a world championship?
They got a vote on that, man, so I'm an avid fan. I don't play anymore, but this is the back-to-back ring for the Lakers.
I
So I'm a kind of a fan. But Magic, it was like a script. It's like a movie script when you hit that three-pointer at the end of the game. You knew it was going in. Everybody knew it. They just watched it and said, that's going in.
They don't
Bingo.
even buy scripts like that.
Yeah,
Too unbelievable. Lou, thanks for coming on. Lou Gossett Jr., folks. We'll be right back with the Pixies!
This portion of the Dennis Miller Show is brought to you by Dawn Dishwashing Liquid. It takes grease out of your way.
Welcome back. Thank you, folks. Thank you. You're sweet kids. Next week, my guests include Annie Potts, Bruce Dern, George Wendt, Geraldo Rivera, Alan Dershowitz, the Cowboy Junkies, and the reunion of one of my favorite groups from the 70s, Mountain. Felix Pappalardi, Leslie West, Corky Lang, and was there a fourth guy? Oh, Lee Liberace. And that wasn't enough. Actor, author, Jinky the Fruit Bat will be here to plug. Jinky will be here to plug his new book, When Good Things Happen to Bat People. Jinky! All right. We had these next guys on last night. They burned the place down. The Pixies!
Hey, do you people believe in UFOs? Perfect. Well, what I did on my odd cast, I picked me up a transmission. I turned a vision ignition. We're looking for the broadcaster. And when I first touched some ground, they simply told me to leave. Was kind of hard to believe, cause there was no one around. This ain't the planet of sound. 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 I had a talented wine that land of classical gas. And on the planet of glass, they sent me skipping through time. I got the silver renown for canals and color of red. Lots of guys that shoot their head. I really need to resound. This ain't a planet of sound. This ain't the 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 planet of sound. This ain't a rock and roll town. This ain't no in around. This ain't the planet of sound. Rock show. I met a guy in a rover. He said it's all over. It's just there where you're bound. This ain't the planet of sound. 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 This ain't the planet of sound.
The Pixies, folks. Yeah. I'm sitting here in a Go Silk suit. I feel like I'm 858 years old. I love it when the Pixies go bossa nova like that, huh? All right. Well, my next guest is probably a Pixley freak. He sat across from Republican presidential candidate Pat Buchanan on CNN's Crossfire. Lived to tell about it. Please welcome Michael Kinsley, folks. The Pixies, ma'am. Were you jamming back there?
They're great. We'll have to book them on Crossfire.
I was waiting for you to come on and slam dance,
Yeah, no,
baby.
I think we'll put them up against Senator Moynihan and see how they do.
Hey, now you got a new partner on the show coming up. Give us a little background on this Johnny Sununu kid. What?
Well, he was previously working in the Bush administration. He got fired, but he still is very loyal to them. And I was driving to work, and I heard Sununu's been fired, widely loathed, conservative, combative, brilliant. I thought he sounds perfect for the job, and I suggested it to the producer, and next thing you know, they'd hired him.
Have you shot a test show with him yet?
No, I barely met him. All I know about him is your line about...
Nobody has. He's always in flight.
Yeah. Well, your line went down very well at CNN about him stepping into Buchanan's jackboots.
Well, I'm glad I got a laugh somewhere, because I remember dying with that thing here that night.
The Pixie crowd didn't appreciate it.
No, it wasn't tonight. It was a few weeks ago, but I remember it getting those sorts of laughs. So what's up in New Hampshire now? What do you feel is going to happen up there, buddy?
I feel a little sad about Clinton because for the past few months, my position really has been, I'm for Clinton, just don't tell me anything about him. And my position now is, damn it, I told you not to tell me anything about him. So I'm without a candidate.
Well, you know, the sex thing, he can maybe slide through on that, but when they think you didn't, when they think you weren't patriotic, man, you're pretty much
Well, that's really an unfair
I know, but you know how these brush fires
The sex thing is unfair, too. Both of them are unfair. The problem is...
Sex is always unfair, man. That's what makes it so damn attractive. Well, why do you say the sex thing is unfair? Now, you just don't believe?
I don't believe Jennifer
Where there's
Flowers.
smoke, there's erection?
I think Clinton's problem is most people don't care about the sex thing, as you call it. Most people don't care about the draft thing, but there's 5 or 6 people care about this, 5 or 6% care about that. And pretty soon it adds up to, a significant number of people.
Then, in the first place you have to take a stand is New Hampshire. The fact is there are probably more people up there who do care about issues like that. It's a pretty conservative country.
Well, except he really was surviving what you insist on calling the sex thing. But this draft thing seems to have hit him
the sex thing and the draft thing. And
hit him a bit harder, yeah.
The non-electable thing.
Well, don't write him off yet. If anyone in New Hampshire is watching, put all this aside and maybe give him another shot.
Yeah, but when Songus goes by you like the Blue Angels, you know you have hit a rut.
Well,
whoa, it was Songus.
I wrote a column about 6 months ago, dumping on Songus, saying his 85-page plan, which I sat down and read, was boring and stupid. And then I might, no, don't applaud.
That was Songus.
Yeah. It's really, I think all Democrats, and I'm a Democrat, are victims of sinking standards because I was watching him on C-SPAN the other night and I was thinking, gee, he's okay, he'll do. That's my standard, he'll do.
Well, that makes you want to go to the wall. There's that brave new world there. We'll be right back with Michael Kinsley after this, Yes. We're back with Michael Kinsley. I have 2 things that are uppermost in my mind. Ask you first off, when I come into work in the mornings, I listen to this conservative guru, Rush Limbaugh. What do you? Now you have to admit, a lot of it is really like he's way out of the.
He's been on. I very often I go to work thinking, I put up with Pat Buchanan, I put up with Robert Novak. At least I don't have to put up, I'm going to put up with John Sununu. At least I don't have to put up with Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah, but he packages it very smoothly. I mean, the guy is actually a funny listen. He really, you know, you listen to him and you hate what he's saying, but then he delivers it so smoothly that you start to, I find myself tuning in. What's happening to me?
Call me up next time that happens. I'll give you
like AA,
correction. Yeah.
It's Liberal Anonymous. Kinsley, I want to listen to Limbaugh.
I'll talk you down.
You realize Jerry Garcia is now somebody's AA sponsor? Do you love that image? Jerry, I'm thinking of having one. Hey, man, you know. Now, how's your old compadre doing, Mr. Buchanan? What's going to happen to him up there?
All too well. It looks like, well, the polls show he was sinking a little bit. Now he's stabilizing. He may get 30%. He'll declare that. Who's applauding? Yeah.
Tsongas.
Paul Tsongas again, yeah. He and Tsongas are about equal now in the polls, but of course he's only running against one guy, whatever his name is.
Do you not think that many really conservative people are going to take the opportunity to smack George Bush on the wrists up in New Hampshire? I don't think it'll carry over further into the race, but I do think a lot of people are going to snap him back into place up in New Hampshire.
Well, that's what Buchanan is quite calculatedly trying to persuade people to do. He's not saying so much vote for me as show you're angry at Bush. You're really angry, make it a protest vote, vote for me. And that'll work, but that won't get him elected president.
Right.
I hope.
Well,
because I want him back on Crossfire.
Well, you know, Sununu hopes so too. Yeah. He's looking forward to those after dental benefits, you know. And he. Now, is it possible in our wildest dreams that George Bush has blown the massive goodwill, and you know, after the war, for God's sakes, he was like a Christ figure in this country. Is it possible that he might not be our next president?
It's possible. I wouldn't. You know, yeah, well, it's very encouraging. It's very encouraging.
The whole world is watching. The whole world is watching.
I mean, he's really had a spectacular nosedive, but, you know, still, if you had to put money on it, you'd have to say he's probably the incumbent has tremendous advantages.
He needs one more major gaffe, right, to really blow it, don't you think?
Well, it depends on the economy. That's what everybody says, but it's also true. And if the economy's looking up in the fall, people are going to forget how much they hate him now. Don't forget. Never forget.
Never forget your fallen king. Now, somebody as bright as you, I'm always amazed when I talk to you, and you are a bright man.
Has stooped to doing Crossfire.
Yeah, well, TV in general. Was it a tough decision at first, or something you always wanted?
You know, everybody does it. That's my defense.
Well, you know, I'm thick in it, man. I got hip waders on back here.
I have to take this from my colleagues at the New Republic. I don't have to take this from you.
Right. No, I enjoy TV, but some people seem to feel it's not a forum for, hey, these Pixie people. Yeah. Don't make me come up there and take my belt off, kids. Hey, did you get invited to Ted and Jane's wedding? Were you invited?
I did not get invited to Ted and Jane's wedding. I've only met Ted a couple of times, and I've only met Jane once. Mm-hmm. And, yeah. But I only work for him.
You've never even you've only bumped into Ted a few times, I would have thought.
He came on Crossfire. He was,
Did he get paid?
We don't pay any of our guests.
Oh, okay.
We're not like you. We're non-union.
Well, we have to pay. It's like what is it?
$539.
Mm-hmm.
That's good money.
Yeah. And I make a little more than that.
Yeah. Well, John Sununu claimed Spy Magazine called him up and asked and pretended to be a headhunter, and he said he would only work for $3.5 million. Now I find he's going to be sitting across the table from me.
You know, Sununu just bought the Taj Mahal with his frequent flyer mouse. Michael Kinsley, good to see you again. We'll be right back with Vincent Bugliosi, the author of Helter Skelter, after this.
If you're going to be in Los Angeles and would like to attend a taping of The Dennis Miller Show, please drop us a note. Care of The Dennis Miller Show, Post Office Box 8160, Universal City, California 91608, or call us at 818-506-0043.
My next guest is My next guest is the man who prosecuted Charles Manson, the author of, amongst others, the bestseller Helter Skelter. Please welcome Vincent Bugliosi, folks. Boom. Now, what's the deal? Manson comes up for parole every year, although I hear the judge wears a Walkman during the hearing now, but he's obviously never going to get out, so you're not really worried about it, right?
Well, if he were in a southern state like Texas, where they throw away the key for much less serious crimes, we wouldn't even have to ask that question. But California, Dennis, does not have the best history of keeping convicted murderers behind bars. Manson, on the other hand, is so notorious that it would create such an outrage that I think it's pretty safe to say he'll most likely spend the rest of his life behind bars.
Right.
Originally, he was sentenced to death.
He was?
Yeah. Originally, he was sentenced to death. I told the jury, if this is not a proper case for the death penalty, no case ever would be.
Right.
If you're not going to come back with a verdict of death, why have the death penalty on the books? We may as well abolish it. But then in 1972, the U.S. Supreme Court, in a case called Furman versus Georgia, ruled that the death penalty was unconstitutional, not per se, but the way it was being implemented by the states. They made their ruling retroactive, and everyone on death row, there were about 600 people, including Manson and his family, all of their death sentences were reduced from death down to life imprisonment. So he's serving a life sentence now.
Is it an apocryphal tale about him looking across the courtroom and your watch stopping, or is that...
Well, we had quite a few staring sessions, and the first time went on for about 20 minutes back in chambers, and this time was an open court, and we were staring at each other, and I had a Hamilton self-winding watch. I noticed later it had stopped. I put one little paragraph in the book on that, because his family claimed he could do things like that. I guess they call it telekinesis, the ability of the mind to physically alter matter. The TV movie over-dramatized that entire incident. They showed it at the end of the first episode to get people to watch the second episode. But I don't think he had any such powers. We had several staring sessions after that.
And nothing stopped.
And I watched. I have to say I checked it. If it had stopped the second time, I'd have been very worried. But
now, I read In the Sea Will Tell in hardback, and now it's the #2 bestseller in the country in paperback. And I get the feeling that, this book was riveting because much of it, it's like a case being tried out in court where the entire thing happened on a place so far away that nobody could ever really be sure of what happened. And I was fascinated by at the beginning that you as a defense attorney now have to be firmly convinced that the person's innocent before you'll or not so heinous a crime that you won't defend them, right?
If I were the only lawyer around, Dennis, I would take whoever came to me, no matter how guilty, no matter how heinous the crime. But I really don't want to... I only got about 5 strands of hair on my head, right? So why do I want to sit down at night at my table, pulling out strands of hair, trying to figure out a way to get a murderer off? Someone...
To make money so you can afford a toupee. But did you like this woman? I didn't even get the feeling. She was so enigmatic in the book, and she seemed to always be holding something back. And I wondered, did you even like this woman?
She turned the case over to me, and it was like, now it's your problem, And one time she said to me, she was on bail for murder, and she said, Vince, I'm doing very well in my career, and I can think of a lot better things to do than go up to San Francisco to be tried for murder. I told her that there was going to be a judgment day, and
like it was an option.
Yeah, I'd tell her we better meet tonight. She'd say, well, tonight's Monday Night Football. And I said, what about tomorrow night? She'd say, well, my friend's having a birthday party. So, but the
she
case...
was so nonplussed by it.
I think you'll agree this is an incredible murder mystery. I don't know if the people know about it, but 2 American sailing couples, both escaping from the world for completely different reasons, and their destinies intersect on this small, deserted island in the South Pacific, hundreds of miles from civilization. And the book, And the Sea Will Tell, details the strange, suspenseful relationship between these 2 couples on the island of Palmyra, the summer of 1974. Also the very mysterious circumstances and the terror, and ultimately the double murder of one of the couples, Mac and Muff Brent from San Diego. 2 months later, the other couple turned up with the Graham's boat, the magnificent Sea Wind, at the LOI Yacht Harbor in Honolulu. They're immediately recognized. They're prosecuted, convicted of the theft of the boat, but not murder. Right. Then, of course, 7 years later, the book's 650 pages you read. I'm just skimming off the surface.
Man, it goes like that.
There's another couple on the island from South Africa. The woman's walking along the beach one morning. She sees something glistening in the sun, gets up a little closer. She and screams. It's the gold filling of a scorched human skull, identified by dental records from San Diego as being the female victim. The man's body to this day has never been found. At that point, I got involved defending the female defendant. And at the trial, as you know, in San Francisco, a sensational trial up there, the prosecution theory they thought was very simple. 4 people on an island, 2 end up dead, the other 2 end up with their boat acting very suspiciously. 4 minus 2 leaves 2. They're both guilty. And I had to try to convince the jury that 4 minus 2 leaves 1, the man, and that my client was unjustly accused of murder, that even though she had gone to the island with him, was on the island at the time of the murders, came back with him on the stolen Sea Wind, she was not involved in any fashion whatsoever. Now, not everyone agrees with me on that. The U.S. Attorney's Office, the FBI, think that she was the brains and her boyfriend was the brawn. But it's a very mysterious case, many levels of mystery to it.
Riveting.
I
love the book, and I was fascinated by the fact that nobody outworks you, I'm sure, in any case you've ever tried, although
I don't have any hair, yeah.
But I see that you've lost one felony jury trial, and I was wondering, does that haunt you, or was somebody with a record of 105-1?
I've lost a lot of court cases. I've lost misdemeanor jury trials. But in felony jury trials, yes, I lost one case. It was a burglary case. I guess the guy wasn't guilty. I shouldn't have prosecuted him in the first place.
You know, I saw the thing between you and Jerry Spence when you acted as if Oswald had lived.
Yeah, right.
And your preparation there was amazing for something that was a fictional recount. And Spence had that whole easygoing Matlock thing happen. But, man, you just machine-gunned him with the facts, didn't you? And you won, right?
Yeah, the jury came back with a verdict of guilty. This was in London. It was the closest thing to a real trial of Oswald that the Kennedy case ever had. We had the original key lay witnesses in the Kennedy assassination. Now, by that, what I mean is that if Oswald had been prosecuted in real life,
I only have a few seconds.
Okay, the witnesses the government would have needed, we had in London, and we had a real jury, a real judge, and
the real Oswald.
No. But no script, no actors,
yeah, it was great.
and I came to the conclusion that Oswald was guilty and acted alone. If this is a typical audience, 85% don't accept this. They believe there's a conspiracy, but I'm convinced that it's all moonshine, that Oswald acted alone. Yeah.
Vincent Bugliosi, folks. We'll be right back after this. Thank you, Vince. I appreciate it.
This portion of the Dennis Miller Show is brought to you by Toyota, reminding you to always buckle up, do it for those who love you.
Hey, we're welcome back. I didn't even get to it because I was so wrapped in conversation. Vincent, what is the name of the film? Is Till Death Us Do Part, TV movie? It's on Monday night on what?
NBC.
NBC, what
about
time?
My prosecution of a former L.A. police officer, fired from the force. He went on a murder spree and started killing people.
One I haven't read yet, but you got to give me a copy. I can't find it in a bookstore. I'd like to thank my other guest, Louis Gossett Jr., Pixies, Michael Kinsley, and let me see, it's the weekend. I'm off. I'm going to go to Hefner's and rollerblade on the tennis court because that's what we do in L.A. Good night, teenagers.
When in Los Angeles, guests of the Dennis Miller Show stay at the St. James Club and Hotel.